Okay, but now let's gotta get to drawing the lines of this chart. So I'm gonna, you can select all your objects all at once to give yourself more room if you need to, and shrink everything down. Or I could just shrink, you know, move the parents around, shrink them down a little bit, move these parents, shrink them down. Because you want to have good spacing around the edges, and not have your chart end up looking too cluttered. Maybe make certain objects smaller than others. And then we're ready. So I recommend going to view and showing your grid to help you line up your objects in a nice orderly fashion. Select this whole row, and then if you want to put line on things, then you could do that by using the line segment tool, or you could try the pen tool or the paintbrush tool. Let's look at how each one works. So the line segment tool, you use that by clicking and dragging to draw out lines. It's just defaulting to a black stroke on my lines now. If you want to make a perfect horizontal line, you can hold shift while you click and drag out in a horizontal, or a perfect vertical, you can hold shift and drag vertically. So I can make little pointers to my little babies here, or a pointer up to my parents. And this one I can just delete. If I wanted to make a perfect 45-degree angle, I could hold shift and draw up in a diagonal. So there's that. You could also, with your paintbrush is normally used for making curves like that, but if you hold shift while you draw with your paintbrush, you could also use that to create lines as well, straight lines. Make straight horizontals and verticals and 45-degree angles holding shift. And it's just using whatever is in the brushes panel, whatever's selected in the brushes panel, which is this brush here, this round brush. That's what it's using. You could also choose other brush options here like charcoal, or go to your libraries to choose other options for brushes like borders dashed. Choose all different types of designs. Notice as soon as I start choosing options from my library that I pulled up from the little library button, then it will add those options to my brush choices in my brushes panel. But if I want to go back to basic, I can always click basic to clear my brush and go back. Whatever you choose, you want it to be consistent for your whole chart, so you can feel free to mess around and play with different options. Whoops, I'm gonna go delete this. But then come up with something consistent throughout your chart. I actually like the way that looks though, with the thicker lines and the thin combination. So you could try different techniques, but then once you get a technique going that you like, then just make it consistent. So if I like this look here, then I want to get rid of this over here and then duplicate this so that I have the same look on for all the lines. But what I like to do is I like to use the pen tool. You don't have to use the pen tool. The pen tool is the most powerful tool in Illustrator for creating very precise designs. Whatever comes to your mind's eye, you can create it with the pen tool, but it does have a learning curve. We're going to be mastering the pen tool, but today we're going to start dabbling with it. I like the pen tool because then I don't have to worry about all these little pieces getting away from me and getting misaligned. I'm going to show you now how you can use the pen tool to create one one path, one single path that's all connected, so you don't have all these little parts that you have to worry about piecing together. Although that could work, and then you could group them when you're done and keep them all together that way. But I'm going to delete this and do this with the pen tool. So with the pen tool, I'm going to just select the pen tool option here. You could press P to select the pen tool. The pen tool, not the curvature tool, but the pen tool. The way the pen tool works is you just click to make straight lines. You click, move your mouse to a different location, click, and notice a line is automatically drawn from point A to point B to point C to point D, and so on and so on. You just move your mouse and click, and it's making straight lines and corners, and everything's all connected. If you want to make a separate line, you could either switch tools and then go back to the pen tool and continue, or a quick way is to hold down the command key on a Mac or Control on Windows, and then click out, and then it toggles you into the selection tool, the direct selection tool, so you can click to tell Illustrator, I'm done with this line, now I want to make a separate line. And then you're back, when you release the command key, you're back on the pen tool, and then you can click, and every time you want a straight line, you just click. If you want a curve, you click and drag. Valentine's Day is coming up, so let's say I want to make a separate shape here. So I'm going to hold down command and click, and then if I want to make a heart, I click to start a corner, click drag to make a curve, click drag to make a little sharp point. And here's a trick. I need a bend here because this is a smooth kind of S curve. If I hold down the option key, I can drag on the end of this handle and create a bend to make a nice sharp corner between curves. And then I can click drag to continue making a curve and close my shape to make a heart. And then I can use my direct selection tool to move the points around. So that's just a little, I should have done that for one of my parents, but let me break my heart. I can click on the point there, delete. If you wanted to make a path continue where you left off, you can, I broke this heart and it deleted that V. I can go to the end here, click to activate that endpoint, and click drag to make it smooth on both sides to drag out a handle. Click, and then go up here to close my shape. I'll see a circle when I want to make a closed shape, and click and drag. But we're not doing closed shapes. That's just my little Valentine's gift to you that I showed you how to make a heart. But it's okay. We're going to really master the pen tool later, so don't worry if you don't get it today. I'm going to delete these and just go on and show you how I would make lines for the chart. So I'm going to take my pen tool, and also with the pen tool, if you want to make a perfect vertical or a perfect horizontal, you hold down what key do you think? Shift. So you hold shift and I can click, and click. If I wanted a perfect 45-degree angle, I could just move my mouse up at a 45 degree at an angle, and then it'll force, while I'm holding shift, it'll force me to make a 45-degree angle on my next click. But I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to make three little points in order to make a pointer. So I'm going to click to make three little points to make a pointer between the parents. You could make pointers point at each individual parent, but in my case I just want to do a pointer between parents. And then I'm going to hold shift and click and kind of make a bracket around these three children. Then I'm going to take my direct selection tool and select the point in the middle and use my arrow key to move the point up. And just using your arrow key like this, it's going to go up. It's going to move the point at very small increments. If you hold shift and press the arrow key, it's going to move the points up a lot. It's going to make your point move at a bigger jump. So I just selected the middle point to make a pointer to point at the parents. But what I really like to do when I'm working with the pen tool to make lines is I like to be in snap to grid. So I'm going to go to view and choose snap to grid. And then when I select my individual points and I use my arrow, it's going to position the points right to the grid line, so everything will be nice and straight. So let me just make sure I can put this right on the grid lines and this one right on. So I'm using my up and down arrows to just tap these points into place so they're lining up with the grid lines, so that just ensures that everything's nice and neat and straight. And also I can select the point on the side here and then use my arrow keys, and then when I use my arrow, it's gonna just move the point right to line up with the grid lines. And then this point over here, I'm using my left arrow key to move the point over, and now I have a little, looks like a little straight line, but the straight line is made up of how many points here? A point on top and the 2 on the side make 3. And now I can use my direct selection tool and drag select around the 3 points, and I can use my arrow to just slide the little pointer wherever I want. Then maybe I want to add another little pointer to point down to this middle child here, the keyhole. So I'm going to take my pen tool and hover over the line and add 3 points to make another pointer. And then use my direct selection tool to select the point in the middle. Use the arrow key to tap down. Select the point on the side. Tap over with the arrow to the right. Select the other point and use the arrow key to go over to the left. And then I can select the 3 points and slide them around wherever I want to point to the keyhole. Then over here they have about the same number of kids, so I can just select this whole thing and duplicate it and to save time and put it there, so that bracket's working there for that. And then I'll put this, I'll just select this bracket and duplicate it, option drag it over and figure out, okay, now this is where it gets complicated. So the keel and the Pac-Man made this baby and this baby, but then there was some infidelity maybe, or just another marriage, and well, actually these two got together first, so, but it doesn't matter. So let's see, how would I structure this line? So I'm going to use my direct selection tool and select these 2 points here on the end by dragging over these 2 points, and then I can use my arrow key to slide this little pointer over to point where I want it to point to. And what I need is, actually I'm going to slide it all the way over to be a bracket around these two, because these two are the children of these 2 parents. So I'm going to use actually shift arrow to tap to extend this out a little bit more, and then I need a pointer to point up at the parents, and I need a pointer to point down at this child. So I'm going to take my pen tool, and if the pen tool doesn't want to add points for me, you might have to select the line first. Let me make sure it's snapping to grid. It looks like it's not quite snapping to the grid. There, it's snapping to the grid, and let me just make sure this point is snapping to the grid here. This one is, okay. So then I'm going to add another, sometimes when you drag your object somewhere, it doesn't snap right to the grid, so then you have to use the arrow keys to make sure things are snapping to the grid if you want them nice and neat. I'm going to select this line and see if I can use my pen tool to, no, it's not, sometimes when you're on snap to grid, it's not responsive with the regular pen tool to add. Maybe if I go to the add anchor point tool, it'll force it. So click, yeah, now it's letting me force it to add points there. And then maybe I'll do some more points over here. So I need to use my arrow key, sorry, not my arrow, yeah, my direct selection tool to select the middle point here. Use my arrow keys to make a pointer going up, and then I'll use my arrow key to move that point over, and my right arrow there. So this line I can drag select over these 3 points and use my arrow keys to tap the little pointer around. And then I can move this point down, select this over like that, this one over like this, select all 3, slide that around to point at the baby there. And so it's showing this. Maybe I'll make this longer to indicate that line is pointing to those 2. They had these babies. I could also, maybe I could move this under like that, and then move this over a little here, and move this one over here a little bit, and select this little pointer and slide it over like that. There we go. So that's starting to make more sense. And I can make a separate little line for this couple. So I can take my pen tool and click and make a separate little piece, or I could keep them all connected. If I want to extend this line from where I left off here, I have to hover over the endpoint and click to activate that point, and then come over here and click to continue to keep going. And then I'm just going to do a let's see, I want a line to come down and point at this baby. So I'll click, click, click to add 3 points for a pointer, and click, click, click to add 3 points for the parent, and then I'll just click here and then come down and click. So then I go to my direct selection tool, click the center point, make it go up with the arrow keys, make this one go, this point go over there. Oop, don't go too far. And then this point can point straight down. So I'm using my arrow key, selecting the individual points with my direct selection tool, and then tapping them over with the arrow keys, and then using the direct selection tool to draw a marquee around the 3 points to slide the little pointer into place. Moving this little pointer over. Oops, I'm a little off here. Something's not quite lining up to the grid. Let's see, is it this point or is it this point? That point was not lining up to the grid. So, it's all kind of a little off now. Let's see. So that can sometimes happen. Then you just have to go, unfortunately, point by point to get it right. So I got a little issue here. And my selecting, okay. So that should iron that out. And now it's all connected. And I got my pointers pointing at my parents. Oh, something, I moved that over instead of duplicating it, it looks like. Here, let's make another one of these. So I'm going to select this, and it's a little hard to duplicate when you're on Snap to Grid. So I'll take it off Snap to Grid. Snap to Grid, and then Option, drag out a duplicate, put it back on Snap to Grid to adjust this to the grid lines with my arrow keys, and maybe this pointer should be more centered to the parent, so put that there, and then these can be adjusted to be under there we go. So you just want to have good spacing around the edges. If you want to put a background in, you can. So you can take your rectangle tool and draw a big rectangle over everything. Maybe I'll give it a solid color with no stroke. Maybe I'll adjust this color to be more like of a neutral gray and send it to the back. going right click, arrange, send to back, and then just kind of play with that. And then when you're done, you just, oh, I forgot, before the background, I wanted to also talk about designing your strokes. So let me lock the background. So I'm going to go object, lock, selection. So besides using the brushes and the libraries from brushes that you can play with, you can also try under, if you go under window, try bringing up graphic styles, and there are some graphic styles that are nice for designing the style of your strokes. So remember, whatever you choose, try to make it consistent throughout your whole chart. But one that I like in graphic styles is the neon effects. Those are specific for strokes. So I can choose like one of the from the neon effects library. It's giving me a little neon effect there. You can choose different ones, and they add to the graphic styles here. So if I like that one, then I can select all my lines and then choose that one so that it all has a consistent look. And finally, to turn this in, I'm just going to save this, just turn it in as the Illustrator file, then go to your, go to Canvas, go to Assignments, and find Exercise 2, click on it in Assignments, and then just click Submit Assignment, and then click Choose File, and then just choose, I'm going to choose from, see where I'm saving this, should be last name first initial EX2, select that, and that's the one, and then just click open, and then it's the files selected, and then just click submit assignment, and then you turn it, when you turn it in on time, you should get a big celebration of confetti. Yay, there it is, a celebration. They threw horseshoes too.